Right, hi folks, it's me back again with another video. Now in this video we're gonna do a review of this Le Creuset grill pan. So this model they call it the Le Creuset Grillit, right? Grill with IT. Now to be honest, before I got this pan, I never had any interest to review this to test this pan or any pan of this kind of nature. And that's just because I always thought that pans like this, they are gimmicky, right? Now, I think it's a gimmick because there is nothing wrong with cooking your steak or chicken breast or whatever it is you want to grill in a good stainless pan like this or a regular cast iron pan like this. Okay, so both of these will give you the same, delicious food as this one. Now the only difference with this one is that obviously, as you can see here, you have the grill marks, right? So hopefully this pan will give you the grill marks, which looks, I guess, fairly attractive, let's say on a steak, but we'll test that in this video. Okay, so yeah, in this video we're gonna do the normal testing, the regular test that we do for the heating performance, and then we'll do a couple of cooking tests to see how this pan performs. But first, let's talk about a few other aspects. Now first, availability and pricing. Now, as far as availability goes, these things are widely available. Okay, so anywhere that sells Le Creuset should stock this model. So the price, the EU price in Europe, it's from the Dutch website Le Creuset NL, is 179 euros. Okay, so that actually doesn't sound too bad. Okay, that actually doesn't sound outrageously expensive. And if you can get it on sale or at a discount, then I guess it's actually a fairly good deal. So the pricing here in New Zealand is $380 retail, which I think is totally not worth it. But they do sometimes go on sale, or maybe even quite often go on sale at 20 to 40% off. Now with most colors, you might get a 20% off, but with certain colors, the less popular colors, you might be able to get as much as 40% off. Okay, so depending on the color. Okay, next, let's go through the build and the specifications. So nothing much to say here. Look, the build is exactly the same as any other Le Creuset enamel cast iron. You have the same range of colors. So this one happens to be the cerise or the red or the cherry red. You have the enamel on the outside and the enamel on the inside. You get the same type of handles as on the regular cast iron pans and also the Dutch ovens. So these are the new type of handle. So this is the current generation. So you get this loopy handle, which is nice. On the older model, you have kind of like a half circle solid handle. Now this only comes in one size. Okay, so this model only comes in 26 centimeters, and the bottom diameter, the bottom cooking area, not so much diameter. So the bottom cooking area is about 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. Okay. Now the weight, it is quite a heavy pan for its size. It's 2,961 grams. Okay, so that's how much it weighs on my scale at home. Now this is interesting because this pan at 2,961 is only 70 grams lighter than this 30 centimeter enamel cast iron. Okay, so even though this is bigger, this is only 70 grams heavier. So the weight of these two are basically, let's say, pretty much the same. Now, it felt like, I'm trying to explain why this is almost as heavy as this. I think part of the reason is that it's got these raised ridges to give you the grill mark. So I think these add a little bit of weight. But I'm also not sure if this pan is built a bit thicker. Okay, so, because when I was doing the cooking test, I noticed that the heat retention in this pan is actually really good. Okay, so so I'm not sure if it's really thick or not. I don't think it is, but it could be. Okay, so as usual, we'll measure how well the pan distributes heat. Now, before we look at the results, my hypothesis is that it's going to perform more or less the same as around 26 centimeter cast iron pan. So if we have a look here. Now on my round burner, it actually gets pretty good coverage, right? So basically the whole pan is covering the burner, and it's only these corners here that are all overhanging. Okay, so I do expect somewhat, let's say, of a reasonable heating performance. So let's have a look at that now. Okay, so here are the results. This shows you how well the pan distributes heat. Now feel free to pause the video if you want to take a look at it in your own time. Now for the first half of the test, it wasn't too bad. So the temperature difference between the center and the edges were quite small. But that difference really grew from the second half of the test, or in the second half of the test. It went to as much as 45 degrees. Now that's still not too bad considering that it's cast iron and it doesn't distribute heat as well as say aluminium or copper. So that is still quite acceptable, I would say. Now, just for reference, the 24cm Proline, which is slightly smaller than this pan, actually still heats slower than this pan. Okay, so if I compare these results with the results from my 24cm Proline, the Proline will still heat approximately 1 minute slower, especially from the second half. Okay. So now where this pan really suffered is at the corners. So like we just saw at the edges, we got a difference of about maximum 45 degrees. But at the corners, you actually got a difference of around 70 degrees. Okay, so up to 70 degrees. And this is because heat, as you can see here, heat is spread in a radial fashion, right? So the center is always going to be the hottest, and the heat spreads outward in a circular pattern. So which means the corners here, here, and here are going to be the coolest. Okay, so these are the results. Okay, so let's have a look at our cooking test. So we cooked a steak and we cooked a couple of chicken breasts. So first, let's have a look at the steak. So steak goes in the pan. Let's have a listen to the sizzle. Now let's turn it and see if we get the grill marks. Now, as you can see, indeed they are there, but they're not as obvious as I was hoping for, right? So you can definitely see them, but they are just not as clear as I was hoping to see. Okay, so now let's do a second turn to see the other side. And again, the marks are there, but it's not so obvious. And this is a clip at almost the end of the cooking. And as you can see, as the heat disperses internally within the steak, the grill marks almost became invisible on the finished product. Okay, and here's a couple of photos of the finished steak. Now you can barely see the grill marks at this point. Okay, so they've got to a point where they basically became invisible. I mean, the steak came out delicious. The steak came out very nice. I did overcook it a little bit on this attempt, but yeah. So anyway, that was not the point of this test. Okay, so let's have a look at the chicken breast. So this pan quite comfortably fits 3 regular-sized, average-sized chicken breast. So we got them seasoned with salt, pepper, some herbs, and some roasted paprika powder. So again, chicken goes in. Have a listen to the sizzle. Now the first turn. So again, look, the grill marks are not that obvious. They are there. But what's actually more obvious with these chicken breasts is actually the indentation from the ridges on the surface of the pan. So now let's do a turn and see the other side. So again, the grill marks are there, but it's not as cleared out as I was hoping for. And lastly, this is a photo of the finished product. Now you can still see a little bit of the grill marks, but it's not that much different from, if you cooked it in a regular pan like this or like this, okay? Okay, so let's move on to discuss what I like about this pan. Well, I do like a couple of things about this pan. So first of all, I think Le Creuset got the size just right on this pan. Okay, so I think this is a good size for a pan like this, because in this kind of pan, I mean, it's unlikely you're going to be cooking more than 2 steaks at once, right? So because most people use these things to cook 1 steak for themselves, or cook 2 steaks for maybe 2 people. If you were cooking several steaks at once, you might as well go outside and use the barbecue for that. So the size is good, right? And the second thing I like about this pan is it's very, very heavy for a pan like this. So when I was doing the cooking, I noticed that the pan retained heat really well. Okay, so it was even better than a 26cm regular round cast iron pan from Le Creuset. Now, what do I dislike about the pan? Well, all the dislikes are due to the fact that this pan has these ridges, okay? So that creates 3 inconveniences. So first of all, is spreading oil around the pan, right? You put a little bit of oil in the pan. So with a regular round flat surface, you just kind of, rotate the pan like this, and the oil will distribute itself around the pan. You can still do that, but you need to be a bit more vigorous, because obviously you need enough, tilt for the oil to flow across these ridges. Now, the other way you can do is just use a brush, right? You use a brush the oil across the surface, so that'll work as well. But then, of course, you have to clean the brush afterwards, which, is an extra hassle. Now, the other extra hassle is cleaning, right? Cleaning a regular pan like this, you just scrub the surface, which is easy. Cleaning a pan like this, you have to, really take your time to scrub between each of these ridges. Okay, so that's just a little bit more time consuming. And the last thing is that making a pan sauce with this type of surface can be tricky as well, right? Again, with something like this, you put a little bit of wine, a bit of stock, and you can easily deglaze the pan. With this pan, to be honest, I haven't figured out how to do that yet. You need to actually get a fond of these valleys, so that could be a little bit tricky as well. Right, now on to the conclusion. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said that I thought this pan is a bit of a gimmick. And after having done a couple of cooking tests, the question is, do I still think it's a gimmick? Well, unfortunately, the answer is yes, okay? I still, at this point, think this pan is a gimmick after cooking the steak, cooking the chicken, which basically came out as exactly the same as if I was to do it in a pan like this or in a pan like this. I don't think that little bit of grow mark is worth the extra hassle of having the pan like this, okay? So yeah, unfortunately, I still think it's a bit of a gimmick. Now, if I had a little bit more practice using the surface, I think I can get the grow marks to be more obvious or to be more presentable on the steak or on the chicken. But is it worth the extra effort trying to go through that learning process? Yeah, I don't really think so. I mean, look, I think it's a gimmick, but it's I also have to say it's not the worst gimmick out there. There are plenty of other gimmicks which are way more gimmicky than this. Because this pan, it does have a couple of merits. Like I just said, I think it's a good size. I think, the size is good. And I think it really holds heat really well. So that's a couple of merits with this pan. So at the end, should you buy this pan or this Le Creuset Grill pan? Well, personally, I would not buy it. I just bought it to do a bit of a test. So now it's going to go on sale because I just don't need it. Now, if you do decide to buy one of these pans, or if you have bought one of these pans, look, I'm not gonna say you made a stupid purchase, okay? But what I would say instead is you made an unnecessary purchase. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.